In this video, I'm going to show you how to wire high and low beam auxiliary lights. How to wire to video, how to make your own, how to make your own hardtop part, how to change the oil, how to fix taillight problems, how to install, how to do a complete tune-up. I'm going to show you how to do that. This would be a setup for someone that's, say, building like a hot rod or a trail buggy, or just want to add high and low beams to like their side-by-side or ATV or anything like that. Because if your vehicle already has existing high and low beam setups, you wouldn't need to do this. But say this is your dash panel, and you would have your switch to turn on your headlights, and that would be your low beams, and then you have your button that you hit for your high beams. There's also this little blue LED that I added, so it kind of indicates that your high beams are on. Like in most vehicles, when you turn on your high beams, there's a little blue indicator that comes on your dash. So like I said, this is just for people that are basically building their lighting system from scratch. You could use different lights. These are the ones I had laying around. You could also do this with regular headlights. If you say you're building some type of buggy and you have a factory set of headlights, you can use this same setup for a factory set of headlights. Okay, I've got you zoomed in here so we can kind of try to make a little bit of sense of all this wiring. You're going to need two relays. At least one of them has to be a 5-pin. The other can be a 4, but at least one of them has to be a 5 for this to work. We have our regular toggle switch, a push button on and off switch. You could use a toggle switch for this too, and I've added just a little LED that's not necessary. We're going to start with our relays. We're going to go ahead and start by grounding our relays. I've got all the wiring and stuff already set up over here. The ground for the relays is pin 85. And you can see I've made a little jumper wire here. I'm not going to show how to make these jumper wires. I already have a video on making those. Now we need our power coming in to the first relay. The first relay is basically going to be the 4-pin relay. And to get power into that relay, we're going to put a red wire on pin 30. Now we need to connect power between the two relays. So we're going to take a little red jumper that I've made here, and we're going to go from pin 87 on the 4-pin relay, or relay number 1, and that is going to jump over to pin 30 on relay number 2 on the 5-pin relay. Now we can connect some of our lights. We have two wires here. We have a purple and a yellow. We have a yellow for our high beams and a purple for our low beams. And we also have a black, which is a ground. And what I've done is taken all of the grounds for all 4 lights and put together onto one, because we're using our little test bench battery over here. So we're going to take the purple wire for our low beams, and that is going to go onto pin 87A on the second relay, which would be the middle pin on the 5-pin relay. We're going to take our yellow wire, which is our high beams, and we're going to put that onto pin 87 on the 5-pin relay. Now we need to make some connections between our dash panel and our relays. So for our rocker switch and our push button, we need power coming into these switches, and that is where pink wire is going to come in. And you can see that is another jumper wire. We're going to connect that to our push button, and then to our rocker, and then it goes out and over to our battery. So now we have power to both of our switches. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this switch because it's a 5-pin switch. It's so you can illuminate it and stuff, but I'm just trying to make this a little more simple. So basically pretending that this is just like a 2 or a 3-pin push button on-off switch. Next, we need to run our trigger or coil wire for our low beams, which is going to go on our rocker switch. And then it's going to go over to the first relay onto pin 86. And then our last connection for the relay, for the last relay, is going to be pin 86 on the second relay, on the 5-pin relay, which we're going to use a green wire for. We're going to go onto pin 86. And if you notice, I've got this little red wire here that's just running to the little LED, like I said, which is optional. The only reason why it's there is so that when this wire gets power, it turns on the little LED. And we're going to take the other end of the green wire and connect it to our push button. So now we're hooked up here. The only thing we have to do is make our ground connections and our positive connections to the battery. But I want to go ahead and run through this really quick and explain basically how it works. Our first relay, which is the 4-pin, is going to be hooked to the battery. You want to run an inline fuse. I'm not doing that just because I'm using a test battery here on the bench. But it hooks to the battery and power comes in to this relay. And both of our switches are powered directly from the battery with this pink wire. And what happens is power comes in from the pink wire. You turn on your rocker switch. The power comes out through the blue wire into pin 86 on the 4-pin relay, which turns this relay on, and then power comes out of pin 87 over into pin 30 on the 5-pin relay, which then provides power for this relay. So basically the only purpose of this first relay is to turn on the second relay. And the reason for that is because this relay has 5 pins and it has pin 87A. So when this relay turns this relay on, power comes out of pin 87A automatically. It's a straight jump. When this relay is turned off, power comes out of pin 87A, which goes to our low beams. So when we turn on our headlight switch, our low beams automatically come on. And then the green wire from our push button for our high beams comes into pin 86 on the 5-pin relay, which then turns on this relay. And when this relay turns on, it removes power from 87A and sends that power through 87, which is our yellow wire, which is also our high beams. And the green wire also supplies power to the little LED that I've added. And of course, the black wires are just grounds for the relay. Hopefully that makes sense. It's relatively complicated, I know, and it's even harder to explain. So just for the sake of time, I'm going to take all of our grounds. This is all the grounds for the headlights. This is the grounds for the relay. And then we have one other ground, which is the ground for the little tiny LED. And then I'm going to take that and hook it to our test battery here. Now we just have 2 power connections. The red wire, which is going to be powering everything basically. So you'll want to use a heavier gauge wire than this. I'm just using spare wire that I had laying around. So you'll want to use, the according size wire to whatever lights you're going to be using. And you want to have an inline fuse on this. And then you have your pink wire, which powers your switches. And that's also going to go to your battery or any other 12-volt source. And again, just for the sake of speed and video, I'm going to hook these together and hook it to our test battery. And in theory, everything should work correctly. So that is how to wire high and low beams using 2 relays, 2 switches. Again, this is if you're building something from scratch, not necessarily, adding this to a vehicle that has an existing headlight system. So, I know this video isn't going to be all that helpful to a lot of people, but for the few people that need it, I hope it is helpful, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to go into my channel and check out a couple other videos. I've got all kinds of videos in there. If you find a video that you like, hit the like button. If you have something to say, leave it down in the comments. And if you find a couple videos that you like, don't forget to subscribe to my channel.